Are those potatoes out in the garage?
Well, I went to the grocery store. I said, please direct me towards your most phallic-shaped vegetables.
Okay.
We need to make a prosthetic member.
What kind of member?
A prosthetic digit.
Oh, not like a penis.
Coworker Gary had a great idea. Gary, you're a genius.
What is happening? Don't hurt yourself. Oh my god. Are you gonna Oh, Jesus Christ. Let's see. Where do I begin with this one? Probably not overexposed. So at the beginning of the pandemic last year, Chris had an accident at work. Chris and I wanted to make this kind of documentary film. I'll link it up here. After Chris got pricked with the needle, he just started filming everything right away because he thought, you know what, this might be a good educational moment to share with people and just kind of try to destigmatize some of the things around HIV and AIDS. But what this video isn't really about HIV, because the film was about HIV. This video is a behind the scenes of kind of how we put together that video. So this is actually supposed to be his project. He was going to make this video himself. However, after he started cutting down the interviews, he got really overwhelmed and didn't really know where to go from there and kind of got stuck. So he asked me to take over the project. So I thought I'd walk you guys through how we made that video from start to finish, how we wrapped our heads around the story, planning, etc., editing, in hopes that you guys might learn something along the way. Yesterday, I went through all of his footage. He had all of the interviews already cut down into bite-sized pieces, and he had kind of an outline done, but no real structure of the story. So I kind of watched all the footage and I put together this kind of story timeline. And this will kind of be the bones of what we're going to reference as we start editing the video. So I actually haven't started editing this yet. This is just the plan. So I'm just gonna walk you guys through kind of how I did this. So this is the full story here. We have the accident, the phone call with the doctor, the talk at home with me, all the insurance issues that happened, the blood work, and the final resolution, and then the conclusion. But within this, there's a bunch of sidebars. So that's kind of where we stand with the rough outline of the video. I am taking all the footage from his hard drive right now and transferring it onto my computer, and I'm going to start assembling some kind of rough timeline that puts this story kind of in compartments. And then once we do that, we'll figure out what the narrative and B-roll is going to be to transition between stories and scenes, and then what the actual introduction to the video is going to be. And we're going to kind of work out a vibe and a design style for the film. So what the titles are going to look like, what the intro sequence is going to look like, you know, the lower thirds are going to look like. It's been a couple of days. This project is probably the hardest project I've ever worked on. Just the story is so complex and there's so many layers and there's just a lot to it, and it's also kind of difficult to basically relive this. It was quite stressful as this was happening last year. So basically I have these like little sections of the videos, little tiny edits whittled down in the timeline, and it's basically just the interviews kind of cut down and the little insurance sections of the video cut down. I left all these little gaps in the timeline to show myself where we need to fill in the gaps for narratives or B-rolls, and I just kind of use these like crappy little titles to basically remind myself what each section is about. Everybody's interviews have been cut down in their own sequence. There was a rough timeline from when Chris was editing it, and now there's this final timeline. It's super rough still right now, but we're starting to get some sort of skeleton of the video. Again, this is like super challenging. I'm actually drained. My head just feels like it's gonna explode. I'm just so, it's just really challenging. After I went through the entire edit and kind of whittled, no pun intended, it was coming together, but it was still a little bit confusing. So Chris and I actually sat down probably for a couple hours and went through scene by scene and figured out what were the little pieces that we needed in between.
When we first started the project, I just went to Milanote and created a bunch of different blocks, and then I could use them and rearrange them, and that gave me my rough outline. I then sent it to you because I got overwhelmed with, and then you whittled that down into something a bit more coherent, and then you went back
and then I got overwhelmed and I had to actually physically draw it out. Sometimes I just physically had to draw it in order for it to like get in here. Called back in Chris, we both went through it.
Then we went through it together.
Yeah, scene by scene, and basically started rearranging things. And we made a new outline based on the old outline and a Milanote board. Roughly wrote notes and titles, and everything was numbered and then put into a really rough. Like this was This project was crazy. All the planning was sketchy and not normally what we would have done for a project like this. Normally we would have done storyboards and narrative scripts. Everything in this video, which I'll link up here, we did none of that for this video.
It was all just basically run and gun, shoot what we have, and then try to put it together in post.
Correct. Every video was like a puzzle, I feel like. I think I tweeted about this.
I think you did too.
This
That was a
video,
good analogy.
This video was like one of those gradient puzzles where you're like, this is the piece, and you're like, nope, it's like slightly off. And does it go here? Does it go here? Does it go here? We can't tell because the gradient is so subtle. It's like an orange to pink gradient.
I've never seen those puzzles before.
Yeah, the internet. So once we had our edit in place, then we were able to move on to the intro.
Also started off as like an abstract James Bond intro style thing.
It was kind of like James Bond meets like Requiem for a Dream.
But it never really panned out that way. But initially I was gonna have like blood splatters kind of like going like this and have title sequences and then like blood going through tubing. The purpose of the intro changed. We didn't have titles. It wasn't gonna be like a film by Becki and Chris, edited by Becki and Chris, filmed by Becki and Chris.
Color graded by Becki and Chris. We're gonna do this like intro sequence with titles, and then we realized this video doesn't really need an intro sequence with titles. Right. It needs kind of a reenactment to show what happened because we didn't have any footage of that.
Most of the video was shot on like GoPros and iPhone. It didn't have a very cinematic quality to it.
Right.
So I felt like the intro would be a vehicle to allow us to kind of insert some, at least a few pretty visuals to sort of make a reenactment of the needle stick injury. And that was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to do without being like cheesy. Like how do you make a reenactment of a needle stick that's not cheesy?
Yeah, especially when you're shooting it in your basement.
We learned something, I guess. We always learn something. And like, for instance, in this time, I learned how to carve a potato into a finger. We need to make a prosthetic member.
What kind of member?
Prosthetic digit. Gary, you're a genius.
What is happening? Oh my God. Are you gonna oh, Jesus Christ. Man, all I can smell is French fries now. Damn it, Chris.
French fries. This is the most serious video we've ever made and the most ridiculous behind the scenes.
Yeah. Didn't you one time make like a liver out of gelatin? Why didn't you just do that with a finger? Why don't you just peel the potato in the kitchen, you ding dong?
Why don't you let me try my experiment? Very close. You potato on the drawers. I just want this to work so bad.
It's not working. I'll have diminishing returns.
Fine, I admit defeat.
That's so, oh, that's so, that is not, oh, that is so dirty.
I admit defeat. There's like a coating of dirt in my mouth. All right, let's go.
Don't forget my potato peeler, because I'm going to be looking for that. Don't forget it.
It kind of looks like a finger, doesn't it? Yeah. Are you laughing at?
Ew, it's making me feel so...
It looks like a finger.
Wow, it does look like a...
It looks like a low poly finger. You just sand it. Yeah, sandpaper will work.
Dude, that's really... Wow, that's really realistic. Just move the sandpaper.
Do you like the cuticle?
Wow, that's really good.
It's a nice looking finger, isn't it?
You did really
That's a nice looking member.
That's a good looking member.
It's a little bit sideways. Let's take off a little bit off the edge here. I needed to simulate what a needle stick injury looks like when you see the blood pooling behind your glove. So I needed to make a prosthetic finger. Look at that detail on the cuticle. Let's just appreciate that for a second. And the creases and the knuckles.
You did a really good job. Oh my God, it kind of grosses me out like you're putting something really through a finger.
Because it's gonna be a macro shot, right? So I'm gonna attach a syringe, and now I can put fake blood in my syringe, and I can inject, and we can zoom in right on the tip, and you'll see the blood pool behind the glove.
Brilliant.
Look at this thing, man. I could be like, I don't know, maybe if this job doesn't pan out, then I have to be a special effects guy.
Am I so impressed right now? Well, I'm glad that we had the idea to buy this fake blood around Halloween, because that's when we were supposed to do this video.
For like 6 months. Blood viscosity.
That one's really liquidy.
Maybe this one's better.
Oh yeah, I think that one's definitely better. Should we go set something up downstairs?
Yes. The prosthetic finger. It lives on. I'll get a shot of me putting the gloves on first.
Okay, and how do you want it? Do you want it like backlit?
Yeah, you can put this in the background, right?
Just put your, yeah, because I can shoot kind of like down at it, but I don't want it to be like obvious that this is like a baking tray.
Baking tray.
Our thought process on shooting that was, yes, it was going to be abstract and cinematic, but because we were shooting it in the basement, we had to be super tight and strategic with how we were shooting it. So we shot everything with a macro lens, And when we're doing videos like this where we need like B-roll that we don't have or footage that we don't have, instead of relying on other stock footage, we try to shoot everything ourselves. And it kind of allows us to think outside the box. And usually when we do stuff like that, we end up learning something as well.
It was a bit of fun too.
It was fun.
I mean,
we just kind of spent like a couple hours farting around down here in the studio.
with the whittled potato
finger. You learned how to whittle a finger out of a potato.
Yep.
When you touch your finger, pull away.
That?
Yeah. Jesus.
Prosthetic finger being gloved.
It looks really like
the finger.
Oh my god, it's really realistic.
It looks just like a finger, doesn't it?
It does.
It looks just like a finger.
Why does that one look more yellow?
It's a potato. It's weird because I feel like it's supposed to be my finger, but I can't feel it. It's like a numb dead finger. Can you get like super macro right there? And just like follow that ridge, you know what I mean? That's so sick. That works so good. Yes, that worked so good.
That works great.
That works so good. That was perfect.
It only needs to be a second. It's like ding and then good.
Okay, that's great. That's the exact shot I needed.
Perfect.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Potato finger worked.
Look at this. It looks just like a needle stick injury.
Is that how bloody your glove was?
No, it was like a barely.
Dramatic reenactment. So for the reenactment sequence, because it was our only kind of cinematic sequence in the video, we shot it on the A7S III in S-Log 3, 4K 120. 422 10-bit, of course. We used the 90mm macro lens on the camera, and then we backlit it with the Aperture 120D and the giant softbox. Softbox kind of became the background of the macro sequence. And then we used baking sheets, 2 different sizes of 2 different metals, as the background because we didn't want it to look like we shot it in the studio. Do we want to drip some blood onto the tray?
Play with some blood.
Play with some blood.
This rig is hilarious. You have the boom arm counterbalanced with the gaff tape with a syringe with fake blood, gaff tape to the lens so the needle projects right in just outside the frame and drops the blood right into the flat lay. Actually looks pretty good. This is the most ridiculous setup for the most serious video. So the intro sequence allowed us to kind of have that little bit more, insert like a little bit of a cinema into it, make something a little bit more pretty for the eyes. But the interesting thing is that shot cuts directly into iPhone footage. So the shot of me actually getting blood taken was shot in my office, lit by computer monitors, literally getting my blood taken and having my iPhone filming it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that for anybody who's kind of like has a discerning eye, they'll say, okay, clearly the A7S III footage is a lot better than this. But I think that the iPhone footage blends nicely.
And we always hear other people say the best camera is the camera you have on you. And a lot of times we default to shooting on our Sony cameras because we like the quality. It's really hard for us to give that up. But in this case, the camera Chris had on him was a GoPro and an iPhone. And I think that this video was such a great example that you don't need to have a $4,000 camera to make a good story happen.
You apply the same concepts, lighting, making sure you're exposed correctly, focusing, framing, all those concepts are the exact same whether you're shooting on an iPhone or an A7S III. And like, for example, for that shot in my office, I didn't even have my GoPro on me, I had my phone. I was like, oh, I need to get my blood work done today. So I had, you know, my buddy who was gonna take my blood, one of the nurses I worked with, he was like, okay, let's do it here. I was like, no, come to my office. I have an idea, and I put up basically 2 blank Google browsers on my giant PAX displays. And so having just blank white displays was essentially like 2 white softboxes just on my desk, sort of, you know, almost backlighting me. And then I think I set it to 4K 60 on my just standard default iPhone video app.
Yeah, and you're using the iPhone 10, right? So
iPhone 10,
we're like a
so
few iterations behind.
And made sure I locked the exposure and locked the focus, and then just framed it up the way I would frame anything else up, and just try to, you know, be very steady. And I think there's like a bit of an orbit around some of the equipment that he was using. So
yeah. The footage was a little bit noisy, so I actually put a denoise filter on it, used neat noise, tossed that on the iPhone footage, and it basically creamed out a lot of that gross speckly stuff in the background. Another thing that I wanted to bring up with the camera gear was when you did the interview with Dr. Claus, You obviously shot that with 2 cameras. His shot was with the A6400, and your shot was actually with the GoPro.
Right.
And I thought that shot looked really nice because you turned off all of the ceiling lights in the room and you were only lit with this big window.
Right.
So you didn't have competing color temperatures in the shot. It was just all one white light source, and that makes the shot look so much better than when you have like tungsten lights coming in from the ceiling and then, you know, daylight light coming in through the window.
The thing about shooting with GoPros, I shot mostly on linear mode, and that got rid of that sort of super view barrel distortion fisheye look that people associate with GoPros. Shot at 24 frames per second, and I think that, and then of course that combined with, you know, being cognizant of lighting, people don't look at it and say, oh, that's a GoPro.
Yeah.
They look at it, just assume, oh, it's just regular footage.
Lighting is greater than your camera.
Correct. Hey, hold on. Only up here. Business up top.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The tuxedo time down below. Okay, we're filming a narrative section for our HIV video, which will probably be out by the time you see this.
Yeah, link up here.
See, I just sat down here because I'm the talent, and Rebecca set up all this fabulous lighting. Can this be closer?
Yeah,
just out of frame,
I think that might have gotten hit actually. Okay, so we just moved the mic. We're a bit closer now, just outside of the frame.
About 12 inches from my nose.
We just got a couple of sound panels put around. Wow, this lens is disgusting. Hang on. I put down a rug just underneath because we are shooting against concrete. So I'm gonna put a couple more sound panels around now once we get situated. So yeah, giant softbox here. We have the mic here, Chris right below it. Big gray paper backdrop behind. We have a reflector bouncing this light into the shadow side of his face. Here light over here. And then we have the A7S III with the 24-70 on it. We're just kind of doing like a shoulders up.
If I could turn my eyelids inside out, that's what I would do right now to troll you, to test your shot. If I can do it now.
No, okay, stop.
We put together the story in like sections, and we kind of wanted to interweave each of the sections, but some of the transitions weren't the smoothest just because I was sort of randomly filming stuff throughout this whole journey. So what we did was I scripted out sort of just narratives in between that would take us from, say, point A to point B to point C, just so it's more cohesive. And that's what we're doing with the teleprompter. We've used this a couple times now. It's actually very handy. Pretty knowledge of HIV between straight communities kind of shined a light on.
Can we talk about the parrot for a second?
The parrot.
Freaking, what is it called? Teleprompter. We've used that a couple of times and it has worked so good, but for whatever reason during this video, it was a massive hassle.
Yeah, I think they like updated the app or something.
Your phone is too old.
Yeah, maybe my phone's too old. Either way, for whatever reason now it didn't really work this time. God, this thing keeps looping in it.
We're having struggles with this tonight.
That was the most rage-inducing.
My God, man.
Regardless of, this remote is off, so the battery doesn't die.
How many technical issues did we just have?
Oh my God, that was so frustrating. I had to update the app, and then this thing only intermittently would connect. So frustrating. For whatever reason, when the Bluetooth remote connects to your phone, it disables your keyboard for some reason. I can't like add to the narrative, so that it kept going to the end of the script and then either going back to the beginning or quitting. So then I was going to add a bunch of hard returns and I couldn't because there's no keyboard. Frustrating.
Doing the narrative really helped tie the story together. And I think it also gave us a moment to describe and explain some of the things that maybe weren't so clear in the video.
I scripted all those out basically word for word, and that was just to kind of get us from one segment to another sort of seamlessly and cohesively, rather than just sort of a hard cut to a new scene and then like, okay, wait, what's the context here?
Yeah, it kind of helps the story along. Writing the scripts in a succinct way allows us to spend a lot less time shooting, and it guarantees that we're gonna hit all the points we wanna hit in a succinct way.
Nothing's worse than like shooting a bunch of stuff that you know you need and then getting to editing and then not having one key phrase or piece of information to like make the story make sense.
Yeah. The teleprompter footage sometimes doesn't come off as natural as say a video like this because this is just freestyling it. It definitely makes a huge difference in delivering a point versus just rambling on forever. After we had the video done and we had the intro sequence shot and we had the pill sequence shot and we knew how that was color grading and what things were gonna look like, then we dove into designing the lower thirds titles, designing the paper background type. We used the same font as we used for the studio that changed our life, which I'll link up here. Made Mirage was the main font choice that we used. And I like that font because it's a serif font. It's kind of chunky, but it's not too formal. And I think it's really punchy. So when we put up the big titles over your talking head sequence, I think it looked really nice, in my personal opinion. And then with the lower thirds, we just kind of mixed white type with white on black, like kind of boxes. And then we brought in this like crinkled paper effect, which kind of worked out because as you were referencing some of the papers and websites, we were able to overlay paper texture on that as well, and it kind of tied in the two textures together.
Actually, having the paper texture really made it look like you were looking at a physical paper.
When it came to the thumbnail, I originally had this idea of a portrait of Chris with his mask and his hat on, like in his doctor uniform, and having all of the questions around his head.
In the morning, you woke up like an hour or two before me, started working on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
I was still asleep. By the time I woke up, you had that mocked up with the intent of shooting an actual photo in the studio with me. I was like,
yeah, that actually works really well.
That looks pretty good. Let's just use that.
I had that idea brewing in my head for about 3 or 4 days before I did it. So I knew, which is always great, especially when you're kind of shooting a video, to start wrapping your head around what the thumbnail is going to be before the day of upload. So I knew what we were going for. I just hadn't shot the photo. The thought process behind the thumbnail was kind of like to represent all the questions that you had kind of going through your head at the time when you got your needle stick. So I think that was...
I think it captured it nicely.
Yeah, and I think the colors and the font all tied in with the video, so it's consistent throughout. There weren't like 18 million font choices. We just chose 2 fonts, and we rolled with that. So that is how we kind of wrapped our head around the HIV documentary film. That's what we're calling it, because I feel like that's kind of what it was.
That's how this is how I dished the project and threw it entirely on you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot.
My savior.
Aw. You had done the worst part, which is whittling down
the potatoes.
The potatoes. No, all of the interviews. You had all of the like 2-hour-long interviews cut down into 30-minute segments. So it was a lot more digestible by the time I got to it to be able to put it together.
I did all the production scut work.
Yeah, I hate doing that stuff. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful, and hopefully it gave you a little bit of insight into how we tackle videos like this. And this one specifically was much more difficult than any other video we've done. I think for 2 reasons. One, because there were so many storylines between what actually happened with you, and then all of like the interviews that we had to cut in as a first thing. And then the second thing, having to relive this really traumatizing part of the year. If you guys haven't watched the film, which hopefully you have if you're watching this video. If you haven't, link up here. But we also did...
Imagine if they watched this video first. A video of us whittling down a potato into a finger. Like, wow, this is a ridiculous video.
Wow, is this a potato whittling tutorial? Also, we did a full podcast episode where we kind of talked a little bit more in depth about healthcare system and our feelings and emotions throughout that period
a lot of people
time.
had questions about that.
Yes.
We put up a Q&A, a call for questions on Instagram. And most of the questions were about the healthcare system. Other questions were like how you were coping and how we all coped with it from more of a psychosocial standpoint. So check that out. We'll link it down in the description box.
All right, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when we post new videos. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for all the supportive comments and the nice things that you said. It was very heartwarming. Goodbye.
Like Queen Ray. Wait. Oh my god.
Oh god, this is the first time I wore jeans in a while. They tight.
I'm wearing the same outfit for the last 3 months straight.
Yeah.
It's my renovation clothes.
We're matching.
These pants.
Wait, I got something on my shirt. I just realized.
Most of it is in its final form.
Sorry.
Most of
it.
It's in my final form. Most of it was in its final form.
Correct.